Hi everyone, I want to show you how to do a debrief in Eli using first my English 1101 class and then your writing for this week and your review feedback so that you can get a sense of how this actually works. So this is all my classes done so far, and as you can see, not everybody has finished. So one of the things I go in and do and did today is email these folks and say, I notice your writing isn't posted yet. Please get it posted. It's still time. You can still get credit. So I'm trying to nudge them to get them to finish this task. Then for the review task, I'm going to conceal their names. And you can see most people are actually done. But we have our two late writers here, and they have an option to each 22 and 24 can review each other's work. So even if 23 and 25 don't get their work in, they 22 and 24 at least get one review. But hopefully 23 and 25 are the two I just emailed, so hopefully they will get to that. So that's our late reviewer group. So first, I'm interested in their review feedback. I usually go here first. And this is a number I'm pretty excited to see right here, 2.2 as an average rating of the comments. That means they have rated the comments, which I sent them an email and asked them to do using our criteria. And it also means that they're probably using the star rating system that we talked about in a more or less accurate way. Now I can confirm that when I come down here and order these comments. Now if I want to see whether they're rating the low comments are getting an appropriately low rating, I can check that out. Of course, I'll probably have to wade through all the ones that aren't rated yet. So for my purposes, though, I'm really curious about who my super peer is, or who are my super peers in the class. I can tell that by going to the comments they've rated. And now I get to consider using my endorse button. So I can read through these and decide, is this really a 5-star comment, or is someone just being really generous, and maybe I need to say something to that person because I'm using this data to help me. Now, I'm interested here, well, number one, they shouldn't be able to do this yet, but eventually when they do have the revision plan ready tomorrow, I'll be really interested to see what gets added to their revision plan. Because if it's rated 5 stars and then it's not in the revision plan, how is it a 5-star comment? Since a 5-star comment is fundamentally transformational. So, like for example, this is definitely not a 5-star comment. So I need to nudge classmate 4 and say, hey, you're being really generous here. And it's not really helping us use the actual data. So what I'll do is just take a glance at this and see if we're doing that star rating system correctly. That gives me some feedback on how well they've understood our first lesson doing describe, evaluate, suggest, and their first practice attempt at rating comments, which we did on Friday as a class. Okay, so what's throwing off my average now is probably that I have a lot of unrated comments. I'm not 100% sure whether they count those or not, whether those count as 0 or whether those are just excluded from this number. I will ask them and find out. So I'm going to go over to the engagement data next, because again, I want to figure out who are my super peers. And I know it's a lot of numbers, but what you can do is click on something like comment ratio, and you want to see a 1 here. This means that this classmate gave the same number of comments that they received. And that's what we want to see. We want to see around a 1. This is all great right here. This is a problem because this means this person is getting more comments than they're giving. These, definitely 6 and below, these folks will need a little more practice, so I'll keep my eye on them. Now right here, classmate 14 said a whole lot. Whether or not that was helpful is a good question, but this classmate has given many, many more comments than the classmate has received. Now when I have my names on, of course, this is a little easier for me to match. I've got those hidden because I'm trying to protect their privacy. This is also quite an anomaly, by the way. We have 1.8 to 4.5. That's a huge jump. So somebody, it may even be an indication that this person is either having a really good time with Eli, or maybe doesn't really need to be in the class. Meanwhile, for the people who are struggling down here, they might have benefited from being in the plus section. They might need a little extra support. So I'll just keep my eye on them. Another way to look at this is through word count. How many words did they write? This person did not write enough words for these comments to be useful. This is about what we want to see. This is even better. So anything in this range right here, they've probably said enough for this to be helpful. In fact, they actually exclude the number of comments given that contain fewer than 20 words right here. This helps us get a sense of how long the comments are. If they're making really, really short comments, they may be helpful and they may be not as helpful. It's very contextual. So the data can only tell you so much. But at the same time, it lets me know that like I really should keep my eye on this person. Meanwhile, I've got a pretty good group right here. These are probably my leaders in the class right now, at least in this assignment. So it helps me get a sense of who I can turn to as that super peer, like how I can basically pair one of these struggling students with a student who's in the average with a student who's a super peer, so that they get to have the zone of proximal development. They get to see the goal in another peer and see how that peer got there and try to work on it. Okay, and then last thing, the percentage, let's see, this is the percentage that were rated. So if someone's like not rating the comments, like these folks right here, I might nudge them and say, hey, would you go in and rate your comments, because that does generate data we use in the class. And then another way to do that is just to praise people, just to say, hey, 4 people rated 100% of their comments. That's really what I want to see, because then they've given me information, data that I can use here. Can also figure out who is giving lots of 5-star ratings. It's these folks right here. So these were the folks that I might need to go back and look at this and say, are they being really generous with that 5-star? So I just have a few little interventions here. These are a few emails, really, and it doesn't take long. It took me just a couple minutes to nudge my late writers, and that gets them on task. Hopefully that gets them not falling behind right away. Okay, we haven't even looked at their writing yet. This is why I like Eli. They have given me so much information that about the first draft that I can do a version of this in class. And we did this on Friday, a version of looking at this feedback. We noticed that, for example, a lot of people didn't get to the third question. This was the thing that was mostly missing. They're also probably being a little generous in the clarity of writing. And we made it to calibrate our expectations, their sense of what's clear versus my sense of what's clear. And then again, I can get random comments if I want and endorse them or not. Or I can go and actually order the comments in specific ways. That helps me figure out what do I want to endorse. And what do we want to look at as a class as models of effective feedback, helpful feedback that they wrote. What I really like about Eli is it puts their writing in the middle of the class as the exemplar, as the model. And it basically shows everyone else, someone in the class already did it, you can do it too, rather than a model that I make, which is a model made by an expert, and that's a little harder to handle. Okay, so I've got this here. I'll show you a little more. They don't have their revision plans in yet. Actually, I'll show you on your page what it looks like when you get a revision plan from the teacher end. You've only seen it from the student end. And I'm going to do the same thing. And obviously, you see you have a full cycle here. So a lot of what I do happens in the revision report. And I really love to conceal names, but don't know if it'll give me that option. So Andy, we know that you're a good sport, so we'll volunteer you. But what you can see here is that I can click on any of your names, and then I have your original writing task, and I can click on it, and it'll pop up in a separate window. I have the feedback Andy received, and I have Andy's revision plan. This is where I click to add my note. And then if I want to see specific details about all this, I can. But you have this little summary page. As you can see here, they made this for conferencing. So if a student is going to come talk with you in the office, this makes an office conference go really smoothly because you have everything at your fingertips in a single page, or you have everything the person has submitted at your fingertips. So I find this very, very helpful. And when I did your revision plan feedback the other day, I think it took me a total of maybe an hour and a half or so. And some of the comments were pretty long. When I do this for my 101s, I'll let you know how long it takes, Monday or Tuesday when I get to that. Okay, so a fuller debrief would actually look at the model comments themselves, and we would go through that and talk about the moves. But for the purposes of this video, I just wanted you to see the teacher end of this and how I use Eli so that I don't have to show you this in class, because it's a little easier to look back at a video, whereas in class you might be like, wait, how many clicks were there? So hopefully this is helpful, and we'll talk more about Eli for the rest of the semester. So again, it's not something that you are required to use at all. I just find it, the pedagogy compelling, and then the technology really, really informative, because you can do all of this in Google Docs. You can do all of this even in a tool that Moodle has, but it's not going to give you all the information about the rating of the comments and the length of the comments and all the engagement data, all those analytics basically that you can use. So you can set it up in other places, but it would be a little more like reinventing the wheel on your part. Nonetheless, though, you can do it if you think, I don't want to make people pay for this, or I just want to try a version of this where I'm not doing the whole thing. Google Docs and to a lesser extent Moodle will help you do that. Okay, so we'll see you in class, and keep your questions coming about this. I'm curious to hear also how your experience of using the system has gone. And I'll ask you that a couple times during the semester to see if it changes. See you later.